Good morning, and welcome to the Live at the Waterhole show. My name is Stefan Vintable. I'm going to be your naturalist today and just look at what a spectacle we have at our Africam Aldonio Cam in Kenya. This is a live show, so what you're looking at right now is happening as we speak. And isn't that just an absolutely fantastic opening? It's also an interactive show. You are welcome to ask me questions as we go along. You're also welcome to send through any of your observations or topics for debate. And if you don't know how to do that, you just have to register on the WildEarth website and follow the prompts, and you'll be able to reach out and contact me, and it would be epic to hear from you. And really would be nice to hear what you have to think about this particular shot so far today. The weather in Kenya is the same as always, it looks like. Partly cloudy, a little bit hazy in the distance, otherwise a bright sunny day where I'm sitting right on the borders of the Kruger National Park in South Africa. It is a freezing cold, blustery, windy, rainy day. Isn't it a great bull elephant? Gosh. So for those of you who have been joining the show for a couple of weeks now, you'll know that often what we try and do is try and age these elephants that come down to this and our other cameras all over the place. And I've mentioned that when elephants get to sort of 45 years plus, their skulls in relation to their bodies look massive. And you can see that this elephant has a skull that looks too big for his body proportions in a way, or bigger than other elephants do, and with these huge tusks. And so looking at his ears, looking at how massive his skull is and his tusks and the condition that he's in generally, I'm going to say that he's between 45 and 50 years old. And in this particular area, they live for about 55 years or so. And he is still strong and vital and amazing. Then we have some plain zebra. There in the background, we can see some fringe-eared oryx with their dead straight horns. And then when we opened, there was also a tan-colored antelope with a corkscrewy type horn, and that was a Patterson's eland. Both the oryx and the eland are limited to this particular region in Africa, with the fringe-eared oryx there in the background being the rarer of the two by far. Only a couple of thousand individuals of those exist. And we're looking at a few of them right now, albeit that they're fairly common characters on our particular camera feed here. If you're new to the show, welcome. And you'll know that we have, well, you might know, or you may want to know, have multiple cameras all over different locations in Southern Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and in Kenya. And we have a summary of the weather that we can experience in many of these locations coming up for you right now. So you'll notice that we've dropped in temperature dramatically from over most of the locations. From yesterday and what we experienced over the weekend, where we were touching the hundreds, going into the 40s in most of the places. Today, we're barely into the 20 degrees centigrades. And in some places, a lot colder than that, which is sort of in the mid 60s to 80s from a Fahrenheit point of view. Here we have a Maasai giraffe coming in for a drink. And what I'm pleased to see is the fact that the pan has some more water, so it's been slowly able to fill up from when we last saw it. And The zebra busy splashing around. You probably can hear it as well. I can't hear what you're hearing, unfortunately, but I definitely have a team of guys that are feeding me little tidbits of information, and I'm sure you can hear the splashing around of these zebra feet at the bottom of the pan there. Of course. Nancy, if you are first to send through your comment this morning, thank you very much, and good morning back to you. It's great to hear from you, to be honest, and it is a good morning, in spite of the fact that it's relatively cold this morning, blustery and a little bit rainy. This is all expected. It usually this type of weather where we're sitting at the moment happens around spring day. So today being what, the 27th, about a month late, but since when has Mother Nature followed our suggestions and observations, right? And this will be one of the few times before the real summer rains start falling that we get these frontal rains. It's a big cold front that's come over South Africa and caused quite widespread flooding in the Western Cape. For those of you who follow news about South Africa who may be living in the Western Cape, so firstly, if you are affected by the floods, my condolences, and I hope that you're safe. And secondly, for those of you who might follow weather trends in Africa and South Africa, you'd notice that the last couple of weeks has been a bit of a challenge for coastal cities in South Africa. Here we have the eland coming back on the left-hand side. Mama Kim, you've sent top of the morning to me and to the rest of your WildEarth friends. Well, absolutely right back at you. Looking forward to spending the morning with all of you. I think we can expect in the sunnier, drier, hotter parts of Africa where we have, look at that elephant's tail. You see how he cocked up his tail there to the right? That shows a subconscious insecurity. He's probably feeling a little bit claustrophobic, to be honest. Although it wouldn't surprise me if another elephant all of a sudden popped out of the frame or into the frame. We'll give it a few moments and see. I think it's just because there's so much hustle and bustle around. So my prediction about today is that in the places that's windy and a little bit blustery, it's going to be a bit of a slow morning from an animal point of view. Animals don't like wind. They tend to hide out from it. But in the places where we've got sunshine and warm weather, we can expect the usual characters to be playing around. It is still, of course, the dry season, and water is scarce out there, as is food for the majority of the locations we've got cameras in. But you know, today's one of those weird days where anything could happen. And so I, for one, am looking forward to the rest of the show with you. I hope you have got the freedom to put your legs up and enjoy the program.
Are you looking to take your bond with the wild to the next level? Download our app and access in-depth chats with our naturalists and special guests. Connect and converse in real time on our Ask Me Anythings, fireside chats, hangouts, and town halls. WeChat, available on the WildEarth app. WildEarth, we are Safari.
So here we have a young male giraffe and a female. The male's on the right, the female's on the left. She's an adult female. And just judging from that male's reaction right now, she's probably coming into estrus. It'll take some time for her body to work through the estrus cycle, at the end of which she'll be covered by a male. And in the meantime, she's sort of oozing a pheromone that is becoming irresistible for male giraffes all in the area. And the ones that are closest to her will be the ones that respond first, but she will be holding them off until the biggest males arrive, at which point she will be irresistible and they will not be able to resist her. And the biggest, healthiest bull giraffe will get the chance to cover her and father the next generation of Maasai giraffe, one calf at a time. He's a magnificent elephant bull. Golly. I love a view like this where you've got the world's largest land mammal and the world's tallest land mammal. Dazzled by the zebra. And as Chris has rightly pointed out, gosh, what a mix at the Waterhole today. This Africam Aldonio feed up in the Aldonio Conservancy in Kenya is really quite a spectacular place. I know that it's seasonal, and I'd just like to, remind everyone of the fact that it is the dry season, and so there's very little surface water around, which is concentrating animals around these pans. But that is the beauty of seasonal variation in a lot of these places, and why you can never really come to Africa once and think you've seen it all. It is a place that changes dramatically month to month, season to season, on an eternal scale. Once it gets under your skin, it's hard to resist. It's not about checkboxing whether or not you've seen the big five and that's that. It's about whether or not you've experienced the magic in all these places. And a scene like we're seeing now is truly magical. Definitely is reminiscent of some sort of safari park, but let me tell you that it is not. This is completely wild and enormous. The conservation areas we're looking at here are hundreds of thousands of hectares, and they join up through corridors and through initiatives, conservation initiatives, to other enormous wilderness areas in a tapestry that spreads the entire continent. So we have a male giraffe on the right, a male giraffe on the left, two females in the middle, all having a drink with this great bull elephant and some zebra. It won't stay like this. You'll probably find that the elephant will stay. He drinks the most. And the giraffe will have a quick drink, and this will the zebra and the eland and the oryx before they make way and make space for others. And then the scene around the pan will reset. So you'll hear me every now and again reference the fact that we'll wait for it to reset, and it's basically just the turnaround time between one set of animals coming down and then another set, which would basically be a mix. Common animals we see around the water here are giraffe, eland, oryx, zebra, elephant. We every now and again see some baboon, warthog, We've seen some Thompson's gazelle, the lions that pop in from time to time, cheetah, and I would imagine any number of other species of animal as well. We also see some quite incredible birds here. We've seen African hawk eagles, we've seen secretary birds, superb starlings, emerald spot doves, ring-necked doves, and even a purple ogana. Starbuck, you've asked a question that comes up perennially, and that's why are zebras so boisterous at the pan? And I would imagine that you and others also notice that as soon as zebra get close together, and particularly when there's a lot of zebra in the water at the same time, they tend to jump around and kick at one another and bite at one another, and they become quite feisty. So zebra are naturally like that. They're naturally just highly strung. They're very intelligent. But when you start to force zebra together, all their little squabbles come bubbling up to the surface, and they become intolerant of one another. So you don't only have stallions bickering with other stallions, you've also got female mares that are bickering with other mares in harems. And when you squash them all together and they all want to drink at the same time, because zebra are a herd species, they don't like to be on their own. They do things together. When you squash them all into one place, then they get a bit feisty. But really just Starbuck, it boils down to comfort zones at the end of the day. And when you cross those zones, then things happen. Gosh, I don't even know where to look. There's just so much going on. You can see a nice delicately striped eland. Anne-Marie, you've sent in a comment this morning. Good morning. And Oldonio is busy and never disappoints. You're quite right. I mean, I must be honest here, I've been working on the show for a couple of months now, and we've been looking at the Oldonio feed a lot. And with very rare exceptions, there's never action on the screen, and it's always something. There's always something going on. And even when there's nothing on the screen, when we can't see any animals, there's this expectation that something's just going to pop out, because it quite often does. What an incredible place, actually. Look, I do expect that once the first rains start falling, that we'll see a drop-off in the volume of animals that we see at the water. But what I do expect is that at that point, we'll see an increase in the diversity of animals that we see. So right now we're seeing a lot of zebra and a lot of oryx and a lot of elephant and a lot of eland. And what I'm expecting is that over time, that we'll see these animals' numbers drop off as they spread out during the wet season, which is fast approaching, and that allows these shyer animals to come in and drink from time to time. Typically, on the left-hand side of the elephant, you can see a dark mound sort of halfway through the sky, left of the elephant's eye. That is Mount Kilimanjaro. We're looking from Kenya south into Tanzania at this point, and we're looking at the world's tallest standing mountain there in the background. It is almost always shrouded in cloud. We were lucky enough, I think it was on Sunday, to catch a brief glimpse of one of the slopes, and then weeks ago we were able to see the full mountain on a clear day. So there you can see the volcano in the background. It's an extinct volcano, glacier topped, and sits at about 5,800 meters above sea level, and is one of those bucket list tourist attractions for the adventurous. They climb up to the summit where it is freezing, far below minus 20 degrees centigrade on the equator with glaciers. And on a lucky day, you can watch the sunrise from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro before making a one-day descent from the top to the bottom. A couple of days up, one day down. So amazing seeing these big elephants. And you know, when they get old and big like this, they just dwarf everything else around them. This elephant's probably weighing in and around the 5,000 kilograms, 5 tons, and has very impressive tusks, actually. Not the biggest that we see. We have some of the world's largest tusked bulls that live in this area of Africa. In fact, we've got cameras in the areas in Africa where you find the largest tusk bulls. So here is one location. The other location is in South Africa in the Greater Kruger Park, where large-bodied and large tusk bulls occur. And then we've got Tembe Elephant Park, where the largest tusked elephant bulls in South Africa occur as well. Really quite extraordinary to cover all those locations. What a privilege as well. Really, really quite extraordinary. So seeing the largest freestanding mountain in the world there behind our elephant, the largest land-based mammal in the world, and there we have a Maasai giraffe, tallest land-based mammal in the world as well. All three in one picture, just like that. Bam. Quite a privilege, actually, to be honest with you. It's really cool. But what is another privilege is the fact that we have many camera locations all over Southern Africa, Namibia, and Kenya. And what would be a shame is if we didn't go and do a quick tour through them and see what we've got at some of our other feeds. So, without further ado, we are going to be shooting south to South Africa to Jamala to see what's happening around there. Aha. So, just like that, we've come halfway down the African continent, a good 5,000 kilometers, and we're at Jamala in Madikwe Game Reserve in South Africa, but right up on the Botswana border. And we have a bull elephant and 3 Cape buffalo, and then some zebra as well. You can immediately see that it just looks drier and hotter, and that's because it is. This environment is far drier than what it is in Old Donyo. Being south, and there's some impala just coming in on the left-hand side. Being so far south, we definitely got seasons as well. Unlike what we have at Jamalo, at Old Donyo, where we just have wet and dry seasons, as it's right on the equator, and so there isn't too much movement of the planet. Definitely not the case here, and we're moving from winter to summer right now. Spring day was on the 1st of September. What are these buffalo reacting to? Could it be the zebra? It seems so. So these are not water buffalo, even though they are in the water. Water buffalo are a very different species of buffalo and occur in Asia, different continents away. These are Cape buffalo, part of the big five, very dangerous, very tough. And these look like 3 bulls together, as is the elephant that you see drinking his water. It's also a bull. That reddish color that you see on this elephant, as opposed to the gray that you saw on the elephant bull at Old Donyo, is because this elephant lives in Madikwe, and large portions of Madikwe have this reddish colored soil, and he's been dusting himself, sand bathing, and it's giving him that red appearance. Characteristic, in fact, of the elephant here. He's just unusually red. Usually they're not that bright red color, but he's obviously had a decent sand bath at some point. Joanne, you've sent in a comment and you say a very handsome bull Ellie. No, he is. I think in his red clothes, he definitely looks different. You can see this bull buffalo having laid down in the mud. Unusually so, bull buffalo tend to spend a lot of time in mud wallows, particularly when it's hot. And they do that, I think, because they're constantly plagued by biting flies, and thousands of them, to be honest with you. And I think the mud just adds a nice protection to them. They also have a lot of ticks. And living in the water, sometimes you find terrapins, freshwater turtles, busy picking the ticks off of the buffalo. Yeah, definitely 3 bulls. This would be a bachelor herd of buffalo. They wouldn't be associated with herds. So the boisterous play of the calves and the younger members, and the fact that these breeding herds attract predator attention and need to move because they need to find food for everybody, that irritates these buffalo. And so male buffalo like this, when they get big and older, they tend to separate from the herd and form these loose associations, sometimes for the rest of their lives. And they'll offer each other protection and some companionship. Quite weird to see that they've moved away from the water, but I think it might be a little bit too much movement. And they could be hungry. This time of the year, there's not a lot of grass around, like grass eaters. And they'd need to move quite a lot of distances to find enough grass to feed themselves. So the luxury of being in a pan and just letting the cooling mud protect you from the flies isn't something that they can afford this time of the year. Just on the left, you can see, just exited the screen, there was an impala there. This elephant bull's swaying his head from side to side. He's got his ears up. That's a clear indication that he's busy observing something. Could be miles away, to be honest with you. Aha, there you go. Another bull elephant coming running in to get some water. So that's what that elephant is reacting to. Gosh. As you can see, two totally different colored elephant. This one elephant hasn't been hanging around in the red soil areas. Now let's see if this one with this red colored elephant's going to share his water with this other one. Doesn't look like he wants to. He's going to come and push him away. Stop being such a bully. But, when resources are scarce, animals will definitely dominate the best resources for themselves. And, of course, the biggest guy in the room gets the choice of the best resources. And that's what you witnessed now. It's just a bit of a reset. Come on and try his luck at the water inlet. This is an artificial pan next to a camp called Jamala. You may be able to hear some working or human noises in the background. The camp itself was burnt down a couple of months ago and is being rebuilt as fast as what people can do. Totally necessary. A camp that's been burnt down or unoperational offers no employment, and with these wilderness areas being in far remote places next to villages and isolated towns on the fringes of society, employment is vitally important in these locations. And so we excuse pretty much any and all noise at these feeds and hope that Jamala has luck in finalizing this building construction project as quickly as possible, getting the operation back on track again. Right, so this bull, he decided that he doesn't mind this other smaller one around too much. See, I'm just trying to gauge his age. You can see that he's got a bald tail. It's usually a sign of an advance. Oh, here's another elephant. Those zebra are having a proper argument with one another. Well done to the zooming on the camera. These cameras are actually notoriously difficult to work because you've got to use your keyboard, and it's remotely operated. So it's all done through magic, witchcraft, wizardry, and sorcery. I don't even know, after all these years of working with WildEarth, I still don't know how all of these things are controlled, but suffice it to say that we do it from very far away, and it's not that easy, but we're getting it right there. So, Zebra, that one stallion is having a proper strop, getting everyone in line. And now, of course, they've decided to hide behind the bush and carry on with their day over the hill. Oh well. Oh, there they come out now. Everything calm. He's had his strop and he's got everyone back in line. Now the harem of females are behaving exactly like he wants them to behave. And now he's herding them away to the next location. So, do these three bull elephant know each other? It's virtually impossible to tell. Old elephant bulls like this red colored one often are accompanied by younger elephant bulls like the one on the left. One on the right also isn't particularly old. They form these loose associations that can last anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of months to a couple of years. It's not really a herd, it's just a bunch of buddies hanging around with one another. The old elephant enjoying the companionship and the security provided by the sharper younger elephant, and the younger elephant benefiting from the companionship through, companionship for one, and the fact that the older elephant is a reservoir of much wisdom and experience. So they will continue to learn from him what to do under certain conditions in different years, when it's dry, when it's wet, when is the best places to go here, there, what to do in danger, in addition to what their mothers taught them when they were still with their herd. I just find it such a nice story. You can see this now, bulls softly approaching or gently approaching, making sure that he doesn't antagonize the older guy. In so doing, he'll get his trunk full of fresher water from the inlet pipe. You can see the distinct shapes of the elephant feet on the right-hand side. Round front feet, oval back feet. And when they walk normally, the back feet will almost exactly step into the front feet. It's called registering. Although elephants change their speed of how they walk so often that quite often you get different, the tracks are mixed up and you get single round feet with the oval foot printing either in front or behind it.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
Right, so I'm back. Please excuse me for that brief breakup. The internet connection that I have to you across the globe died all of a sudden, and it took me a bit of a while to figure out what was going on. You know, one of the magic things about this particular format is that pretty much from anywhere we can get a video feed out, and I can help you to watch the program and enjoy this particular experience also from anywhere. And technology does it scuttles that whole thing. So hopefully I'm back and the sound is all good, and we can carry on with this great view from Oldonyo in Kenya. We're at Jamala looking at that red elephant, and we then moved back up to Kenya, where we still have that giant boom. And the reason why we moved over is because from they're busy building Jamala, and the construction noise can sometimes get a bit much. And of course, we have other camera feeds to go to, and so why not let the guys working there finish what they're doing, and then we'll go back and have another look once it's calmed down. As we were saying, they need to get that camp built as quickly as possible. It provides, or will provide, a lot of much needed employment for locals once it's up and going, and so we're holding thumbs that they get it done as quickly as possible. What we are busy watching at here is a Patterson's eland with some red-billed oxpeckers. It took me a while just to make 100% sure that they were all red-billed oxpeckers that have had a bath when the eland came down to drink, and are now just getting their feathers rearranged. Of course, birds' feathers are vitally important to how they function, and oxpeckers are no different. You may be wondering why these birds are sitting on top of this eland like this. Well, a symbiotic relationship with all large mammals, not just the eland. And these birds get their food from the eland, primarily blood parrots. And the eland gains protection in that the oxpeckers are highly vigilant. A little bit of audio breakup as well. My side, I apologize. It's just a question of getting this internet story back up and running. I apologize for that. We just got to. Sometimes we have gremlins cropping into our cameras on site. Other times we have gremlins cropping up into our final control, and other times we have gremlins cropping up into like my side. Today is my turn. It is one of those things. We just got to bop and weave, as they say, with it. And of course, continue to enjoy the camera feed from where we are. What this elephant is done now is finished drinking and has now come to the pan where, as you've noticed, the zebra and the eland move into the water, what will happen is all the mud and the sand that they bring with them gets washed off and will collect in sediment on the bottom of the pan. We have seen at other cameras that elephant really enjoy a mud bath, or shower at least. And in this particular case, this bull is not immune to that. What he's busy doing is spraying his belly, his flanks, and behind his ears predominantly with water and mud. So 50, you've made mention that there's beautiful tusks on this boy, and 100%. He's got a wonderful set of tusks, actually. Not the largest that we've seen, but also definitely not small. And I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that he's a big elephant, and so those tusks are massive. I'd probably say if they're the size of my waist, and I've got a 34-inch waist. Is it 34 inches? 34 centimeters. South Africa's in centimeters, and so You can see the water on the flanks of the elephant will do a couple of things. One is that it cools down his skin, so as it evaporates and as the draft from his ears passes over his flanks, it's cooling his skin down. And the skin, being the largest organ on a body, contains a lot of blood vessels, but also behind his ears, he has a network of blood vessels where all his blood in his body passes through his ears. It's like a big radiator. It wouldn't surprise me if he dusts himself with some sand now. He's got a bit of an itch on his back legs. Lots of biting flies up in this part of the world. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's got a bit of a fly problem at the moment. You can see that his tail is swishing and his legs are kicking, and I think there's probably a bit of a hippo fly that's biting him over there. Now move to his front legs. That's a cute thing, man. Really cool. Back to drinking. So cooled himself down, had a bit of a mud bath. Now he's made some space for the zebra again, and back to drinking his water. He'll probably move off now, to be honest with you. Actually, no one really know what he's going to do. Often these bull elephants stick around for ages up at Old Tonya. He's now had a drink and he's had a shower. Doesn't look like he's sticking around for much. Let's see. Different water inlet, different flavor of water. Pretty cool. Here we have a Maasai giraffe, some fringe-eared oryx, and some plain zebra that are busy drinking at this Africam Aldonia feed in Kenya. Right on the southern side of Kenya here, close to the Amboseli National Park. Key to this area is Mount Kilimanjaro. You can just see there in the background the dark shape outline of the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, and a unique feature of this particular area. Mr. UAE, amazing views of Mount Kilimanjaro. You're 100% right. It is. It's not easy to see Kilimanjaro. It's almost always shrouded in cloud. I mean, this is only the third or fourth time I've seen it on the shows I've hosted, at least in the last couple of months. And in fact, you can be in this area and not see Mount Kilimanjaro at all, not even know that it's there. Nevertheless, it remains a great place to visit. So there you can see Mount Kilimanjaro. Great work with the camera. Camera is obviously wanting to focus on everything in the foreground because that's where the movement is in the greatest contrast. But you can see there in the distance. I'm trying to imagine that we can see the glaciers at the top, that slightly white, distinct line on the bottom. It's tough to say exactly as if we're looking at clouds or the glacier topping the top of Kilimanjaro, but it is cold enough up there to support a glacier, much the same as the glaciers everywhere else in the world. The glacier is retreating as we go through a climatic change globally. But that's a discussion for another time. Why don't we go and have a celebration of our other camera feeds? And we haven't this morning, which is also another one of these highly productive pans at this moment. Aha, Tau Africam's Tau pan feed. This is in Madikwe, so we've come from Kenya to South Africa. Madikwe Game Reserve is on the border with Botswana, and Tau Lodge and its associated pan is one of the places that we have a camera. In the shot right now, just starting at the bottom, 2 of the 5 crocodile that live in this pan are sunning themselves. The left-hand side is our grey heron character, which we see almost every single day. This little flock of white-faced duck, which have pulled in. We've got the black-winged stilt center, just left of center. In the background, some wildebeest and some impala. And then a myriad other birds that will be quite tough to identify positively at this point. Bit of note is this sort of muddy, grassy bank. And we often see animals trying to cross out onto the mud here and make use of the grass. This pan is busy shrinking as the season progresses, concentrating fish into these drying up pools, and we're finding any number of birds, from spoonbills to yellow-billed storks, that are coming for the feast. And of course the crocodiles, we've also been lucky enough to watch them hunting fish from time to time. Right now they look so full, so they've obviously had a great night feast. Not going to be doing much more for the rest of the day, I don't think. They just look like they're lazy. Crocodiles, of course, being cold-blooded and therefore needing the environment to help them manage their metabolism, unlike the warm-blooded wildebeest and impala that we're having a look at in the background, whose body temperature is pretty much kept constant by their metabolism internally. Ooh, Ella, who's only 11 years old, has asked a great question. What birds can we find here that will not be found in Kenya? Goodness me, Ella, quite a few actually. There's a few what we call endemic birds, which will only be occurring in South Africa. Also, a few birds that occur in Southern Africa. There's crocodile number 3, sunning itself on the bank. Ella, I'll get back to your question now. So there's a crocodile sunning itself on the bank and has its mouth open. And the reason why it has its mouth open is precisely because of its temperature regulation. It's obviously getting a little bit too hot than what would be ideal. And so rather than going into the water to cool down, it's just opened up its mouth, which will evaporate water on its throat and allow for the temperature to, or allow for some heat to escape. And of course, just managing that temperature. It's never a constant with a crocodile. Their body temperature is always fluctuating by a couple of degrees. But there'll be an ideal for what that crocodile wants to achieve. Whether it's building up energy or whether it's digesting a meal, just staying warm enough to survive, etc. It will only know. But what you're looking at it there is just one of the techniques that it has for doing that. All right, so Ella, give me 1 second just to pull up a list of endemic birds, and I will be with you, and then I'll let you know in a second.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Goodness, around me, the thunder is crashing. Last night was a spectacular lightning storm around about 8 o'clock, and the wind blew an absolute gale for the entire night. There we have some white-faced duck feeding around that grey heron. Quite nice to see, and a pair of Egyptian geese just coming into the picture now from the left, having been displaced by the heron's movements. Birds are one of those things, Ella, that you can go your entire life following a bird list and wanting to see different birds in different habitats. I dissuade just checklisting them, although it does end up being like that, and watching the birds that you are looking at. The best birders that I've met in my life have a combination of being able to accurately identify birds in the environments that they occur, and not just the birders who checklist and say that I've seen this and I've seen this and I've seen this, but couldn't identify them again without help. And I've met some extraordinary birders there's about 10,000 birds in the world, and I've met birders that have over 6,000 birds counted already, and would be able to take you to exactly where these birds occur and help you identify between male and female and juvenile and adult. I mean, just people with extraordinary skills. South Africa has about 1,000 birds. So of the 10,000 birds that occur in the world, South Africa has about 1,000. And I have some friends that have over 700 birds on their species list, so having seen 70% plus of the birds that occur in South Africa. And to a person, they are incredible people. Lisa, you've asked an interesting question as well, and wanting to know how these crocodiles got to the pan here at Tau. They were relocated from outside Madikwe, Lisa. So Madikwe is a conservation success story of note, in that it was rewilded after having been decimated by just human expansion and just human intervention. And when Madikwe was set up as a game reserve, and when animals were relocated here, crocodiles were one of the animals that were relocated to Tau. There is the river called the Marika River, which is a sort of permanent river. I think it flows all year round, or it might just flow for most of the year and have some permanent pools in it. I'm assuming that at some places in the Marika River you do get wild or naturally occurring crocodiles, but for the majority of Madikwe there were no crocodiles left in these permanent water spots. And it was through humans that crocodiles have now returned to areas that they traditionally didn't occur in anymore. Or let me say that they've returned to areas where they traditionally did occur, but in recent history were removed for some reason or another. This is as opposed to other locations that we have, Lisa. So say, for instance, our camera feeds on some of the big rivers. We've got a camera feed, or Africam have a camera feed on the Zambezi River, and there's camera feeds on the Olifants River. There, crocodiles have occurred forever. So crocodiles have not been exterminated in their natural habitats in those water systems, and those crocodiles are, their lineage is intact. These 5 crocodiles, or the 3 that we can see today, but the 5 that do occur in this in Taupan, will be the start of the new population of crocodiles, hopefully extending far, far, far into the future. Really quite nice to see. Nathan, you just sent in a comment saying you just loved the show, and I couldn't agree with you more. Just have a look at this great shot of this moorhen. So this is opposed to the red-knobbed coot that we were having a look at. This is now a moorhen. The coots have got that white face with the 2 red knobs on their heads, where the common moorhen has this bright red forehead with the yellow tip beak that we're busy seeing. And just that's such a great thing. They tend to enjoy the fringes over and above the red knobbed coots that we see in abundance in places like Camphor's Dam and Kimberley, but we've also been seeing quite a few of the coots here as well. We haven't really had a look at one of these moorhens in detail over the last couple of weeks and months. It can be quite a confusing bird as well to have a look at. Yeah, we've got those crocodiles. A selection of those white-faced duck with the... And then we have a spur-winged goose. So top right, we've also got a character that tends to be quite shy and inactive mainly. There we go, he popped his head up. That's the largest goose in Africa, and if that goose had to stand with its head up straight next to me, it will probably be about 3/4 of as tall as I am, and I'm 6'1". So it's a big, very powerful bird, and as its name would suggest, has this bony protrusion on its wing. Now birds fight, so not just with each other, but also with possible predators by not just biting, but hitting them with their wings. And that bird can do some significant damage. There we go. The spur-winged goose. Both the heron and the goose are characters that we see relatively often. We haven't spent much time with either of them because generally they're sitting with either their head covered in the goose's case or just dead still in the heron's case. And so we haven't really got to know them as personalities just yet, but we are seeing them very regularly. And they definitely like this place. There's some zebra in the background, characteristically head shaking as they approach the water. Them wildebeest and elephant tend to do that. I'm at a loss to know for why. We haven't had any. I haven't been able to find any information on it, other than speculation. but it's definitely something that they do.
Are you looking to take your bond with the wild to the next level? Download our app and access in-depth chats with our naturalists and special guests. Connect and converse in real time on our Ask Me Anythings, fireside chats, hangouts, and town halls. WeChat, available on the WildEarth app. WildEarth, we are Safari.
Slipped sort of halfway into the water to cool down, all because it was disturbed by the zebra. So tough to know which one is the case, but nevertheless it resulted in the crocodile making his way off of his beach or her beach. You have a male impala. So as opposed to the female impala, here we have a horned ram, and a mature guy at that, and a jackal. Cool. Let's see, can you see a white tip to the end of the tail or a black tip at the end of the tail? I'm assuming it is a black-backed jackal, only because they are the far more common species of jackal in Madikwe, as opposed to the side-striped jackal, which would have the white tip to the end of the tail. That's got a black tip, so it's the black-backed jackal. One of my most favorite animals is the jackal. They're top center now, sort of above the impala that you're seeing just left of center, for those of you with a sharp eye. And we've got some guinea fowl, helmeted guinea fowl. The jackal being off on the left hand side of the zebra. As mentioned before, well done to the Zoomy controlling the camera. It is really difficult to work those cameras. Often what happens there is the jackal now just going through the picture, not really having come down to drink. They don't need to drink, similar to springbuck and oryx. They can get a lot. They can extract a lot of moisture from the food that they eat. And then jackal are also, believe it or not, omnivorous and will often eat fruits and melons that they find, which have a high water content, and can extract their water in that way as well. The feeling that jackal sort of was just checking things out, being very opportunistic. They won't let any moment for a morsel go to waste. I was probably checking out to see if there was any sick, lame or injured, lame or lazy that he could take advantage of. It's not uncommon in dry areas like this for jackal to set up ambush positions around pans of water like this and ambush birds. Usually doves, ringneck doves, come down in visual. Ringneck doves form a large portion of the diet in some areas for jackal, as do sand grouse, who come down to the edges of these pans at sunset in their tens of thousands. As per usual with this African Tau cam, we don't know where to look. There's just so much going on. Zoom into one area and all of a sudden you start seeing things. Zoom out and you start seeing things. It's tough to know what to do, actually. Spurring goose has looked up. So these pans reset their animals from time to time, and what we have is animals constantly sort of moving in and moving out from the water. We spent some time now here at African Tau in Madikwe, but why don't we go and have a look at what's happening at Old Donyo up in Kenya and see what's reset there. And so here we have a different weather system. As you can see, it's bright sunny here, no clouds, a lot less clouds than there were this morning. And we have a herd of Maasai giraffe with some Patterson's eland and some fringe-eared oryx. What a delightful picture. Gosh, the resolution on these cameras is so sharp. You know, we're quite zoomed in at Tau now, and the heat haze, because there's a lot of distance there. It's a broad vista. There's a lot of distance, and the heat haze adds a mirage, which makes the pictures a little bit fuzzy. And then when you come over to a camera, or our other cameras, a lot of them are quite close to the pans. All of a sudden, it jumps out in sharpness at you, and it's so crisp. Lots of movement around as well, so birds flitting in and out all over the place. For Ella, we'd be looking for some superb starlings, which occur just here. I can see is ringneck doves. I can see an emerald spotted dove. Can't see anything at the moment that is endemic to just Kenya. Actually, I can. The fringe-eared oryx that you're having a look at and the Patterson's eland only occur in Kenya, Ella. So not quite the birds you were looking for, but definitely noteworthy. Oh, and as the Maasai giraffe, there's also, it's only the impala that you're seeing in the picture that's shared. Pretty cool, eh? busy while you study. I love that, actually. You know, it's a the show is just incredible. I know that I keep on waxing lyrical about it all the time. Of note, just this impala that's just walked in. We don't see male impala on Old Donyo up in Kenya very often on the feed, but just note how much bigger horn-wise the East African impala are to the South African impala. Because they have an abundance, apparently there's just because of the two growth seasons, they have an abundance of really good quality food. It's not a different impala at all. It's the same type of impala. But the males grow these extraordinarily big horns. But to get back to just praising WildEarth and this live at the water, it's just one of those shows that you can have going on in the background. You can also, of course, put the sound down. You don't have to listen to me droning on in the distance. And then when there is some noteworthy action going on, you can switch it back on. But the pictures are just so good. And because it swaps all the time, there's something nice to have going on. And then on the other hand, you can just sit and totally immerse yourself in the experience as well, to the exclusion of all else. And we can learn so much from what we're having a look at, because these cameras are not disturbing these animals at all. There's a warthog. Gosh, we're having a whole procession today. Looks like a mom and baby rather than two siblings coming to join the giraffe. You can see that male giraffe following that female out of the shot. He's just waiting for an opportunity to test her hormonal status, see if she's ready to mate. Male giraffe tend to move from female group to female herd to female herd, searching for females that are about to come into estrus or are in estrus, and then will accompany them. He's either kicked away by a bigger male or has his chance to mate with her, in which case, job done, and he'll move off. They don't have any part to play in parenting, and move on, eternally looking for females as soon as they are adults. That is different to the eland, where male eland, called bull eland, will have harems of females, and depending on how strong he is, that'll determine how many females he's able to keep around him. Zebra, much the same. Another big bull giraffe coming in. So I would say that one of the female giraffe we're having a look at is definitely either in estrus or very close to it. And her body will be giving off pheromones, which is going to be like irresistible perfume to any male giraffe in the area. Steve, you'd like to know the horns, they're called ossicones on a giraffe, have any purpose? They do actually, Steve. So you're quite rightly so, having noticed that the ossicones are present on giraffe. Sorry, it's quite tough to say today. We've got so much going on with the weather systems around South Africa that it's difficult to know what's a problem with the camera or what's a problem with our side, but don't worry, we got it. So Steve, and for the benefit of our viewers who don't know what we're talking about in some context, giraffe are born with horns. They're called ossicones. They lie flat against their head when they're born. They then stand erect after a period, and over the course of a giraffe's life will fuse and bond to the skull ever increasingly. And you've asked what purpose do they have. So in a female giraffe, they don't seem to serve much of a purpose at all. They don't use their horns to fight with. When they're protecting their young from predators, they tend to kick and trample rather than headbutt to their heads. But in males, it's a different story. Males will fight with one another, and they do so by swinging their necks and the end of their heads or their heads into their opponents. And there, the ossicones definitely do serve a purpose in that they end up being like a pair of brass knuckles. They add considerable concentration of force over that area, and they can actually injure one another quite badly. Their aim is to knock up an opponent over and do damage when it comes down to fighting. You know, when two giraffes are so evenly matched that the only option is to fight. And so in male giraffe, they do serve a purpose in that sense. So Steve, I hope that answered your question. We got some oxpeckers just in front of the giraffe's face. Ah, there we go. Goodness me. Welcome there, big guy. Oh, these cameras are just incredible. You know, you just don't know what's going to come out of the grass. The question I have now, is this the same Ellie that we saw earlier or a different one? These tusks look to be similar. I'm going to say that it's most likely another elephant. Can't be the same one. instance, whose back legs work together and then front legs pad, pad, jump, pad, pad, jump like a rabbit, hare, squirrel. Giraffe stride. Hyena do a very similar thing. Hippo do as well. And then humans, of course, we've only got 2 feet. It's also a massive bull elephant. Gosh. Lisa, an elephant can keep about, I think it's, gosh, I want to say 12 liters, which is about 2 to 5 gallons. Just give me 1 sec. Let me just double check that fact before I answer you on that one. Right, Lisa, I got my facts straight. Gosh, I need to, you guys are testing me today with these birds' questions and everything else going on, which is great. I absolutely love it. So thank you, Lisa. It's good to get my brain flowing again. So an elephant trunk holds about 12 liters, which is about 3 gallons of water. Obviously, large male elephant hold more than what babies do, and so it is highly variable, but that's around about it. And a trunk can weigh as much as 140 kilograms, which is about, 250 to 280 pounds. So it's a very large appendage and is basically the extension of the top lip and the nose. So an elephant doesn't have a top lip. His top lip is sort of the bottom of his trunk, and his nose is the rest of the trunk, ending in 2 nostrils, which have a flap, a top and a bottom flap for the African elephant. And he can pinch with the flap. So there you saw the flap. And he can pinch with that flap and manipulate. They can also hold it flat out, put it on the ground to sniff up scent. And usually curl their trunk around the vegetation they eat. So they don't. They curl their vegetation to like getting an armful. And then they'll then use their tusk to aid their trunk in breaking vegetation and grass off. So the tusks, apart from being magnificent to look at and obviously helping them when they wrestle with one another, also help an elephant to feed. And they'll use them to pry bark and roots up, break branches, and hoist up grass, which is then shoved into the mouth of their trunk, just like you saw there. Look at the hairy bottom lip of that elephant. Not quite his chin, but nevertheless. So great. Most of an elephant's weight sitting over the front legs, about 60% carried on the thick column-like front legs. The rest of 40% of the weight carried over the back legs. You can just see how it is working there. All the muscle attachments for that massive skull and heavy tusks and heavy trunk, all resting on the front of the neck, carried then by the legs and the shoulders. You can see how he locks out his leg like that, distributing that weight. The big ellie like this weighing anywhere around the 5,000 to 6,000 kilograms, or 5 to 6 tons. Elephant have a way of making every single mouthful of water look as delicious as the best tasting drink you've ever tasted. And then they also suck the end of their trunk. It also looks so comforting. I suppose as one of your most important appendages, why not? The other two most important appendages of an elephant being their ears and their feet. So without those three things, an elephant can't survive. Without the use of their ears, being their radiators to help cool their body down, their trunk being the appendage that they use to feed themselves, and their feet being how they carry their massive weight, an elephant can't survive. Those are the three organs on an elephant that are most important. Pretty much everything else they can, to some degree, do without. Broken tusks are common. Burns and scars on their skin is common. They get sick just like we do, but will function through most of it. Great view there through. We always have these wide shots that we get with these illies, and so it's great to be able to play with the camera like we're doing. And we're going wide and having a look at, how big he is compared to everything else, but also going tight and having a look at some of the closer shots, which we don't normally get to see. So the hairy chin, and now watching how he sprays himself wet. You can watch the water running down his side. The aeroplane in the distance, you'll be hearing that. It is obviously how people get in and out of this area. Tourists, for the most part, fly in and out. And then supplies get trucked in from far away, all grown on site. It's also another common way of doing it out here. And keep quiet a bit so you can listen to the noise of him having a shower. You would have heard that light rumble. That didn't quite sound like an aeroplane coming from that elephant. And that's one of the sounds that they can make. Their sound repertoire is immense, going from shrill squealing all the way through to infrasound, which is ultra low frequency sound beyond our ability to hear. But that rumble that you heard there is common amongst the contented elephant, or an elephant just chatting to another elephant in the area. Wouldn't surprise me if another elephant came out of the bush. But I found it such a lovely sound, so peaceful. Beauty of these cameras is that we can move and zoom. It's really cool. See this elephant wet his flanks using a little bit of mud that he can find at the bottom of the pan to just coat himself. with some mud in addition to the water that helps cool him down. The temperature on top of an elephant's head and shoulders can get to over 50 degrees centigrade on a hot day. He's a big guy, this, eh? Goodness me. Here you go. And just like that, the pan is empty. It's going to need some time to reset with the new group of animals. And so why don't we go and have a look at one of the feeds that we haven't seen yet today? Go and have a look at our flamingo flock at Camphor's Dam, and then we'll hop on over to another feed after that, depending on where we have some action. And just like that, kapow, we end up being in Kimberley, which is in South Africa, and Camphor's Dam with our lesser flamingo flock. And as you can see, as opposed to yesterday, which was cold and blustery and overcast, we have a beautiful day here today. The cold front having moved from Kimberley yesterday to the Kruger National Park today. That's what I'm sitting and experiencing from yesterday. And for those of you just joining us, we're looking at a flock of lesser flamingos in a very important site. This particular site for these birds are only one of 7 places in the world that they breed, albeit that I found out yesterday that they haven't bred here in quite some time because recent floods in 10 years ago, actually flooded out their nesting site. We hope that at some point they'll start to breed again. In the meantime, we get to enjoy them and some red-knobbed coots. Those are the black birds that are bobbing around. They're quite nice. These flamingos feeding on algae and bacteria for the most part. That grow and live on the bottom of the pan.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
And of course, with the beautiful weather that we're experiencing at this Africam Campus Dam feed in Kimberley, South Africa, we can zoom in quite tight now without any wind wobbling the camera. And if the weather over Kimberley is anything to write home about, I'm looking forward to the next couple of days out here in the Kruger, where this frontal rain that we're seeing right now moves on. It'll be one of the last cold fronts actually to have passed over the country before the seasons properly change and we get rain associated with warm days, heating columns of wetter air up, and which then build into clouds and drop their rain that way rather than being lifted by cold blasts of air from Antarctica. Love that pink color on these flamingos. Shows a certain health and vibrancy. Being this close, you can almost see how waterproof the feathers on those coots are. You know, in spite of the fact that these birds are spending quite a lot of time underwater, they don't look like they're very saturated or wet at all, as opposed to the birds that we saw bathing and their feathers get very wet. Jack, you've asked a question about whether or not this is really live. Jack, 100% this is live. So it's 11:30 in the morning in South Africa here today. And what you're looking at now coming out of your screen is literally a couple of seconds old anywhere on the planet. We don't edit the footage whatsoever. It moves straight from this location into the camera through a network, I believe, to be run by some sort of sorcery to be able to come out of your screen anywhere on the planet a couple of seconds later. And all we do is add my drony voice and a couple of artworks like the Africam Kimberley logo at the top. And that does a couple of things, Jack. One is it allows us to really get an understanding of what these animals are doing right now. And two, you never know what you're going to be seeing. You never know what's going to happen next. Of course, you can't plan for problems, and every now and again we get noise or picture issues, but that's all part of it. But also we get these incredible sightings. Just the other day, we had a whole bunch of vultures just come out of nowhere, land next to one of the pans we have access to, and give us an adventure for 30, 40 minutes. A couple of minutes ago, we had elephant just pop out of the side of the screen. Look at the way the flamingos have to run in the water. What they do there is they use their feet to aid acceleration as well as beating their wings to increase wind speed over their wings, giving them lift. The faster they move, the greater the lift produced. And of course, they're not the smallest or lightest of birds. They're similar to some ducks that have to do the same thing. So we're noting that in spite of the fact that those coots spend a long period of time under the water, you can see how buoyant they have to actually fight themselves underwater by kicking their legs straight down. And that's because their feathers do act that are so tightly woven that they do act as a water repellent. And on top of that, they preen their feathers as well. So they've got an oil gland at the base of their tail, and they then spend a large portion of their day, as you can see those coots over there doing, adding oil to their skin and their feathers, which further repels the water and aids in their buoyancy, but also in keeping them dry. Birds with waterproof feathers, what you don't want is to get water underneath trapped. You get very cold being as skinny as a bird. Of course, being cold burns energy. Energy needs to be replaced. When you're feeding yourself, you want to try and retain as much energy as you can. Well, let me say, if you're feeding yourself from what's available in the land at any given time around you, you need to conserve as much energy as you can. So we've just been sent a question by Modo. He's asking, can I tell you how far more or less the actual town of Kimberley is from Camphor's Dam? Sure. This dam is actually right on the outskirts of Kimberley, Modo. When we zoom out in a little bit and have a look, you can actually see the infrastructure of the town on the horizon. So it's right on the outskirts of the town, in fact. I wouldn't hazard a guess, it's probably a kilometer or two, so a mile or two, maybe 3 at most. So right on the outskirts. In fact, this pan is kept full from stormwater that is channeled out of the town and into this pan, as well as this pan forming part of the water reticulation system or the water treatment system for the town. So it's all very close. Olivia, you're only 13 years old and asking questions online, I suppose, just testimony to how accessible these types of things are. You want to know, what do flamingos eat to make them pink? They get it, the pink color in flamingos is from their food. They get it from compounds that are present in their food. So in fact, flamingos' pinkness is determined by the quality of food that they have, or at least the quantity of the compound that makes them pink. And you do get flamingos that are white, and you get flamingos that are more pink depending on the time of year and also their diet. So to answer your question, it's the food that they eat, and that makes them pink. Moda, there in the distance you can see a line of buildings and a water tower. That is Kimberley. So there you can see how far we are from Kimberley itself. And as we scan wider, you can see more infrastructure, more power lines, and a railway line and a road in the background. So right on the outskirts of Kimberley. It's such a great view. Kimberley, of course, being historically very important for a number of reasons, but of note is the fact that they've got a man-made excavation hundreds of meters deep, where they excavated a volcanic pipe to extricate, where people hand excavated a volcanic pipe to excavate diamonds. And Kimberley was the site of a diamond rush. And once was the center of much attention because of that. See more buildings in the background. Kimberley, like many towns and cities across the world, experiencing a period of growth. as people from more remote areas come to these urban areas for opportunities for work. Righty. On that note, let's make use of the fact that we've got other camera feeds to go and visit as well, and go back up to Aldonio in Kenya to see what's reset around that pan. Amazing. So now we have some more giraffe and a warthog and a Patterson's eland and a whole bunch of oxpeckers. Quite a large flock that have come in with these animals and are coming in more and more and more. Interestingly, none sitting on the warthog, although they don't like sitting on warthog. You often find them sitting on them. I think they just prefer the greater banquet on the larger animals. The oxpeckers, of course, being the birds I'm referring to, sitting on the giraffe's neck. Catherine, you commenting that there's just some beautiful scenery? Yeah, gotta agree with you. And that wide angle shot of Camphor's Dam, superabundance of water, and now this very sunny vista with these. I love the color of a giraffe and the elegance of an eland. This giraffe on the left looks like he's. Oh no, it's another giraffe. Gosh, I was like, he's got some growth on his neck, and then it's just another giraffe standing behind him, and it's just the face. Yeah, it's almost perfectly placed. I mean, you didn't notice that it had an extra pair of legs growing out of its belly. I always think that it's one animal with two heads. You've seen so many giraffes around today, and I think it's because there's a female in the area that's coming into estrus, and she's perfuming the air with the message that she's ready to have a baby. And of course, males from all over the place are responding to that. She will hold most of them off, and will wait a while. Her body will wait a while until gives the chance for the biggest, best giraffe to arrive on scene before she must. And there we have an antelope we don't often see on the camera. That was a Thompson's gazelle. They tend to come in and leave very quickly. Very closely related to the springbok, which is also a type of gazelle. These Thompson's gazelles occur here and, of course, just disappeared as quickly as it arrived. They often do that. They just come in and have a look and they leave again before you can have a proper look at them. But nevertheless, that was a Thompson's gazelle, and we'll go back to our scrutiny of how many oxpeckers we're actually seeing on this particular giraffe. Is obviously in great condition. No noticeable wounds or anything like that. No mange to report. And these oxpeckers are just having an absolute ball. Most of them have been for a bath and, of course, just giving themselves some dry. Some of them are combing through the fur. Let's see if we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the particular shot. And there was a couple more on the lower legs. I'd say about 15 birds. Here we go. Have a look at that. I think that's a white-browed sparrow weaver, if I'm not mistaken. If we can bird book out while we're having a great look. So well done on the zoomy controlling the camera. Like I said, it's not easy. These cameras are not easy to control at all. And of course, being as quick as they are, birds are particularly difficult to film. Excuse the noise there, but I was just trying to get my East African bird book in sight here. I'm going to be looking at sparrow weaver. There you can see the view there. Doing a great job. So so difficult. Let's see if any more birds come out of the woodwork there in that little beach. All right, why don't we, while I'm busy looking for the identification of that, not look at the rocks that we are looking at right now, go and look at some animals. So why don't we head south back to South Africa and Jamala. Oh, hang on. All right, no, we're not going to go anywhere. There you have a wagtail. That's a pied wagtail. I do know that bird. And something new. We don't often see them at all, as they're very quick. You can see that they get their nap. Hang on, wait, look at that, look at that. Oh, gosh, what a surprise. We've got a secretary bird on camera. And some emerald spot doves. The wagtail, secretary bird, and emerald spot doves. For those of you who don't know about secretary birds, they're amazing. They're raptors that hunt snakes by kicking them to death with those massively long, powerful legs. Called secretary birds because of those quills, those feathers in the crest that look like olden day pens that apparently, I don't know, apparently secretaries used to keep pens in their hair. Anyway, named like that, but an incredible bird. Goodness, what a treat. Having a drink, scooping up water. I remember what I said, as soon as there's not a lot of zebra and elephant and giraffe around, the diversity of sightings increases. So with a decrease in volume, you often get an increase in diversity. And case in point, we hardly ever see impala around here. We've got some impala in the background, and then this great view of a secretary bird. Really luck. Drinking also looking like the best tasting water ever. So they'd use their legs to subdue the snake, actually opening their wings and using their wings as well as a type of shield, but also as a distraction to the snake. Snakes obviously following movement, and then kicking out very powerfully with those legs and talons to club at the snake before then jumping on it and then killing it with a bite, using that quite viciously hooked beak that you see there. Wow, that is a lucky sighting. Langur lover, which bird has the longest toes? Goodness me. What a question. I'm going to say the jacana, the African jacana, or the jacanas as such. So let me just say that that's what I think. So yeah, jacanas probably have the longest toes in relation, I'm assuming in relation to their body. So it would be a ratio of body height versus toe length. The bird with the longest toe, I'm going to have to think about that. So in terms of actual inches or centimeters, tough to say. So watch in the distance now. Watch the females urinating. The male dipped his mouth into that. Now, although that might be absolutely disgusting for you and me, in fact, it's vitally important. That giraffe has these two glands in the roof of his mouth, and tasting the urine like that will allow him to gauge hormonal status of that female giraffe. And they can do that so accurately as to know whether he should move on or stick around. And we're doing all of that lesson with a fantastic view of a secretary bird in the screen, which is really rare. We don't really see a lot of secretary birds on these cameras at all. And just look at that. Well done to the Zoomy for controlling the camera so great. And so the patience of the secretary bird. Oh, there's another one. So there's the pair. So they live in these monogamous pairs with each other, and this will be a male and a female secretary bird. And I think probably the same pair as we see coming here from time to time. This is only the second time I think we've seen the secretary bird around.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
And they are fairly common birds, both. We've got the Egyptian goose in the back, plus the sacred ibis. Sacred ibis will nest in these reeds, in these colonies, and 10,000 birds plus is not uncommon for sacred ibis. But they use that long beak of theirs to probe for any number of different insects and invertebrates and frogs and things, as opposed to the round flat beak of the Egyptian goose there in the background, which is used to eat grass and plants. So, I don't know, we're just sort of celebrating the diversity around the different camera feeds today. And it seems to be a day of rare birds to see on these cameras. Definitely the first time I've seen a sacred ibis on a camera feed. That ibis busy probing through that vegetation to see if it can glean any insects or frog or whatever from it. There we've got the sacred ibis. While the ibises have got such a unique shape, it's quite hard not to it's quite hard to misidentify an ibis. I do find that the sacred ibis's beak seems to be the longest in sort of proportion to its head out of the ibises. It's got like a tiny head and face and this massive beak that erupts from it, which I find to be quite humorous, to be quite honest with you. But having such a long beak has done nothing to diminish its intelligence. Often you find these birds are very successful in some areas. They're very common around, and so do well. Jack, that's an interesting question. You've asked what's been the coolest animal that I've seen on a camera feed. I'm assuming you meant the camera feed or in general. I'll answer both because you haven't been that specific. But on a camera feed, the coolest animal that I see is probably the crocodile. Having manned these cameras for years for WildEarth, and I spent a large portion of my time at a point manning our river cam feeds on the Mara River. I got to really get to know crocodile, and they are incredible animals, and well worthy of the fear that people often associate to them. What's been the coolest animal that I've seen in general? Probably honey badgers. I really enjoy honey badgers, and then really big snakes as well. So something like a really big adult black mamba or snouted cobra holds a fascination for me because I'm terrified of them. Actually, terrified is the wrong word. I'm highly respectful of them. I'm not scared of any snake. So I hope that answered the question. It's not your typical answer. Honey badgers, of course, before we could enjoy their mischievous nature, and they're very and opportunistic and highly intelligent. And then the snakes, just because of I suppose, of that sort of delicious fear that you get from them. Obviously, I don't want one in my bed, for instance, but out here in the bush, different story. You might hear a slight drum in the distance behind me. It is now pouring with rain. So, although I do have a thatched roof house and it's muted, it definitely still is making a noise. Yeah, you can see what that beak is used for. Probe. So often we watch so much animal behavior from the more common animals, the elephant and zebra and waterbuck and wildebeest and springbuck, oryx. We forget that there's an entire universe of birds and insects and mammals and reptiles and amphibians out there, and each one is suited to their particular thing. And here we're watching an animal using, comparatively speaking to your head, an extraordinarily long appendage on the end of their face, probing it into every cavity and hole it can find in order to get to and extract a food source that keeps it going, and successfully so. Oops. Got its toes wet. So cool. For those of you just joining us, this is a sacred ibis, and we're at the Africam Kwamaritani feed, which is in the Pilanesberg National Park in South Africa. Noteworthily, the Pilanesberg National Park is situated in an extinct volcano, which has been extinct for a long, long time, basically a third of the Earth's life. So no danger of it exploding. All right. Why don't we go and have a look back up at Old Donyo and see what else we got to see as that sacred ibis flies away. There's the secretary bird moving away, and the two butts that we got pointing at us right now are from two olive baboons. Gosh, I tell you, these scenes never fails to amaze me at how it changes. There's the other secretary bird. Very distinctive birds. We don't see them very often. Neither do we see a lot of olive baboon, in fact. Most of the time we see them running across the background. This is a bull baboon on the left and a female baboon on the right. Talking about being in estrus, that swollen rear end of hers is typical of a baboon that's in estrus, and that's why she's with this male, and why he's with her, to the exclusion of others, very similar to those giraffe around at the moment. These olive baboon just occurring up here in East Africa. They don't occur in South Africa. So, for instance, if we had seen baboons at Kwamaritani, where we were now, they would have been the Chakma baboon. Here you can see the giraffe busy testing that female. Shame, not leaving her alone. So, mating game is on. Pairs of secretary birds, mating baboons, mating giraffe. Baboons are so funny. Lenny, you're saying the Waterhole watch is a brilliant concept. Totally agree with you, Lenny, especially this time of the year where water is quite scarce and so everything is congregating around the waterhole. But, as the season progresses and water becomes more abundant, when the rains start to fall, I have no doubt that we're going to be seeing more and different species around the waterhole. Yeah, our baboon pair, our romantic pair, exit the screen, leaving us with the giraffe, pestered by this male, some fringe-eared oryx, and our secretary bird pair in the distance. Quite rare to see. Pleasantly so, we're seeing it. These fringe-eared oryx are also quite rare. They don't only occur in this part of the world. Kiwi girl, you want to know what animal is most closely related to the giraffe? Camels and... Gosh, there's a East African animal, which for the life of me I cannot remember the name. Goodness me, what am I? Okapi. That's it. How bizarre does that sound? So okapi, and camels are the closest relations to giraffe. Hopefully that answered your question. We've got this really good-looking herd of fringe-eared oryx. And for some reason, this particular herd seems like its coat patterns are brilliantly contrasting and healthy. So for those of you keeping tabs on me, the bird that we saw a little bit earlier, just before we saw the secretary bird and the wagtail, was definitely a white-browed sparrow weaver, fairly common bird in this particular area. Ah, the scene. A male giraffe just pestering that female. He won't leave her alone until he knows exactly what her hormones are doing and which part of her cycle she's in, and if he needs to stick around or not. My impression is that there is a female here with her estrus cycle going, because there's so many males in giraffe around at the moment. They're all in this type of weird activity. Male giraffe get all weird with a female giraffe that's around. But what we're not paying much respect, I'm going to rectify that right now, is how beautiful these oryx are. Oh gosh, don't stab me. Those horns will go straight into you. This female now, she must just come down and drink. Why do you want your friend to move out the way? No, don't do that. What are you doing?
Are you looking to take your bond with the wild to the next level? Download our app and access in-depth chats with our naturalists and special guests. Connect and converse in real time on our Ask Me Anythings, fireside chats, hangouts, and town halls. WeChat, available on the WildEarth app. WildEarth, we are Safari.
And you can see this giraffe coming in for a bit of a drink as well. Our secretary bird's still out there in the distance, giving us a great view of them. And this bull giraffe now having also collected quite a number of red-billed oxpecker birds. Just now we counted sort of between 10 and 15. I counted 9, some people counted 11, others a little bit more than that. How many can you count on this particular giraffe? There's the 4, 5 on the ground, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 oxpeckers. So around about the same as we had just now. Giraffe awkwardly going down to drink. They whisper when they drink for some reason. Baobab Gal, you said you thought that these were yellow baboons. It could be either or, but the yellow baboons are usually on the coast. We're quite far from that here, whereas the olive baboons are the more common bushveld baboons. And also the olive baboons tend to be thicker set and sort of like they've got jackets on, whereas the yellow baboons tend to be quite long-legged and have skinnier coats. So that sort of those thick shoulders and that furry ruff and that sort of grumpy demeanor are usually what I associate with olive baboons, and the fact that they're in the bushveld, not on the coastal plain. The 3 bull baboons that we're having a look at the moment. Oh, something coming in and making them nervous. Another bull baboon. See what I mean about their thick furry? It looks like a jacket on a heavy set, almost like a club's bouncer. And then that sort of squashed up, grumpy looking face, almost like a petulant child. But yes, quite right. In East Africa, you do get the yellow baboon, the olive baboon, and then further south, you get the Chacma baboon. Those are the 3 baboons that we find. Not the only primates, of course, there's a bunch of monkeys as well. Brevet monkey, patas monkey, samango monkey, colobus monkey, and any other number of monkeys. As soon as we start going into the more forested areas in Africa, their species numbers just jump up. Where they sit there with their little T-Rex arms. Shame, not a lot of food for them around at the moment. Picking at scraps and bulbs and shoots. giraffe walking through the scene. Goodness, these close-ups are crazy with the busy pan. Like, you just don't know what's going to come out of the distance. These baboons descending onto the plain to feed during the day, but they will sleep up in trees at night time. Like most of the primates, they feel insecure on the ground. And although these baboon troops can number sometimes dozens of individuals, and these males can be super aggressive, they'd show off leopard, even in some cases lion, can get very aggressive. At nighttime, they are vulnerable, and they will sleep up in trees together in their little family units, providing protection through sentries and just collectively being aware. This giraffe goes down and drink. Different giraffe. So cool to watch. Nature Child, you sent through a comment saying that Waterhole Watch is addictive and you don't want to miss it. You don't miss it daily. Well, firstly, thank you, Nature Child. I mean, like, having eyes on the screen is what counts, absolutely. And then knowing that you're watching is also great, and doing it every day. And it is, you learn so much just by observing, forcing yourself to observe. Really cool. And like I said, what you're going to be seeing around these pans is going to change seasonally, and it's exciting. We've got excitement of the large mammals now and concentrations of large mammals, but I'm also looking forward to increasing diversity as soon as it calms down. I noticed that the oxpeckers got pretty aggressive with the picking of ticks and parasites around the giraffe's head when he was busy drinking. See there, they're cleaning out the ears. Look at them going inside there. Goodness. Relentless. This bull giraffe pesting this female so much she can't even have a drink properly. That baboon picking at something over there. It's found something that's holding its interest. lot of speculation as to how old crocodile can get, but it's safe to say that they can live for over 60 years, and in some extreme cases, probably up to 100. And you can see why. They just live a very calm life, initially feeding on insects when they're born, then through fish, and then ultimately carrion and large mammals. And will store fat in their backs and their tails, and can go months without eating when they're really big, calming them down, even able to slow their heart rate down when there's periods of drought or scarcity of food, and then are known as well to encapsulate themselves in mud and drying up pools, and they can just live in these capsules of mud, very, very low metabolism until times get more better for them, and then they can reanimate themselves in a way. Really, really cool that we can see a close-up view of this crocodile and see sort of how those scales on their body are orientated. The scales on their back is remnants of the dinosaur days and are used to capture sun. So, they orient vertically and will be able to capture sun at sunrise or sunset at much lower angles, in other words, and heat up the blood that goes through them. And then down the tail, you can see that it flattens out, and a crocodile, for the most part, swims with its tail. They do use their feet. Their feet are webbed as well. But for the most part, a crocodile keeps his feet next to his body and will then use its tail swishing from side to side to generate the thrust needed to get through the water. And then also its primary propulsion system for lunging out of the water at prey when they're big enough to start catching prey on the water's edge. With crocodiles being some of the fastest moving animals over a couple of meters on the planet. Sandy, you'd like to know how I can tell if a crocodile's had food recently. You can't really, Sandy, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, if they've got a full belly or you've seen it or there's some remnants of a carcass nearby, you can tell that. But crocodiles also have the ability to flatten themselves out when they're getting a suntan, and it makes them look like they've just had a meal. So it's actually quite tough to say unless you watch a crocodile for a long period of time. This particular crocodile looks full, but like I'm saying, difficult to say. It's also a time of year where fish are being stranded in these shallow pans, and it is easier for crocodiles who are hunting fish to then get their food. So this is a time of plenty for crocodiles. I'd like to believe that this crocodile has had a great fishing expedition, and it has a full belly and is lying in the sun contentedly digesting his meal. That's what I'd like to believe. Goodness, I can't believe another day has flown by. We've got like a minute and a half or whatever left of the show. And it is the time of the day that I need to start saying thank you to everybody. So thank you very much for all of you that watch the show and send in your comments and questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you for all your donations and everything that you do to support the TV program. It's really great. Thanks to all our partners and WildEarth. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible to do what we do. And then, of course, thank you to the staff who are just incredible and all your hard work at getting these shows out. So much gratitude to everybody. Tomorrow should be fairly warm here in the Kruger Park again, I hope. Anyway, for the rest of the day, I'm going to try and stay warm. All of you out there, I hope that you stay safe, and we'll catch up with you soon again. I'm going to be keeping quiet so that you can listen to the last few seconds of the show in silence. All the best. Ciao.
Bye.